Hi everybody. A lot of you might remember that a few weeks ago I played kind of an official adoption match against Hikaru in Blitz. 3-minute Blitz, straight up, no gimmicks, no odds, none of that. And actually I won the first game. You know, Hikaru was talking to his chat, maybe a little bit distracted, but then Hikaru really locked in. He was not very happy, and he completely wiped me off the board in probably about 8 or 9 of the games. A few I kept even, and a lot of you wanted me to look at that game. The very first game, it was a Karo-Kan, so I did even play it in one of my favorite openings. And the whole point of this is not like to rub in that I won a game or something like that. I'm not that kind of person. Much more so, just I have a lot of respect for Hikaru as a player, and it's just cool to get a win like this. And just I think the game was interesting. So it was a Karo-Kan, as I said. And Hikaru played e takes d5. Now, one thing to note, Hikaru's in a weird spot because he's one of the few super GMs, in fact, really the only one, who plays top-level online tournaments, as well as over the board before coronavirus, and streams every day. And so he can't give away his preparation. Like, he faced the Karo-Kan multiple times recently and played e5. He played the advanced variation in every one of those games. But against me, played ed5, and this is called the exchange variation. Knight c6, and I played queen c7. In Blitz, I sometimes go for g6 and bishop g7, completely fine as well. There's also knight f6, but I played this, the point of which is to not let the bishop come to f4. So he plays here, trying to get the bishop to f4. I played bishop g4. This is actually normal, and now there's castles. There's a line where, like, white actually, instead of playing the move f3, will castle and play queen to e1, and then try to bring the queen out this way when the pawn is moved. But again, he's in a spot where he just wants to play chess, and he doesn't necessarily want to show all his secrets against Gothamchess. He would rather save a secret against one of the GMs in one of these tournaments. Okay, so e5 here, which looks a little bit weird that I'm pinning myself, but it's fine because white's kind of got a weird setup, and it's not so easy to actually pin the knight. Now, I have experience in this position, and so after bishop d6, knight f6, protecting my pawn, bishop g5, here I just castle long. Now, this move looks like it is, white's trying to win my pawn here by removing the guard, but it's too dangerous for him to actually take. It's just way too dangerous. In the game, I was even thinking to just play bishop c6 and create some sort of attack on Hikaru's king, but I also can do other things, but for the most part, rook, the rook on the open file and the two bishops and the knight, and in the future the queen, and not to mention even this diagonal being open, it's too much to handle for white. So instead, Hikaru played knight d2. I played h6, trying to get him to take. He didn't take, and I played king b8. Always a useful move when you castle long, defends this pawn. He played king h1. I played bishop to c6 because I mean, who doesn't like a bishop lined up like this? And then he played knight d4. I was not afraid of giving up my bishop, so I played g6 because I actually was more afraid of him coming here and taking this. I actually thought that if he took, I would just come back, this would be open, and I just thought I would have a solid position here. A couple things to notice, he has the bishop pair, but you can hardly say that this bishop is that strong. It's not really staring at anything useful in the position. Really is this bishop, but I have an isolated pawn, and probably he will play like knight b3, bring the knight to one of these two squares, etc. In the game, though, Hikaru played bishop g1. And here is where I came up with a plan in a 3-minute blitz game, straight up with no bonus time. I was very proud of this plan. I played the move h5. And obviously, when you see this move, it's like, oh, well, it's pretty clear. He wants to play h4, h3, etc. And that makes sense because we're castled on opposite sides. And I figured, well, there's nothing I can do in this position, so let me go. So Hikaru took, and I did this, and then he played knight to b3. So he's kind of just slow playing it, looking to, like I said, put his knight in the center, b4, b5, potentially in the future. And I kept going with my plan. And then he put his knight on d4. Now, what is the point of the h-pawn attack? Is it to play h3? Try to find the plan that I haven't mentioned. I have a very, 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 very vicious plan here, and it actually is not h3. Try to pause. See if you can come up with what I came up with. So the thing about h3 is that he can just go here. And if I sacrifice, I will lose my queen. It's actually, he just plays this bishop out and I lose my queen. So I played knight to h5. That's the point. Do you see the threat? It's to go knight g3 check. Right? And then hg3, hg3. And it would just be checkmate. And so, Hikaru played g4. I took en passant. Very important, by the way. If en passant was not a rule of chess, this would just not work. So h takes g3 and knight b5. So Hikaru goes for my bishop and my queen. Now, keep in mind that around here, the time situation is, it's not in my favor. Hikaru plays exceptionally fast. And I start panicking. I'm like, oh my god, I can tell that I'm winning. Like, I gotta bring this home. So I play queen d7, knight d6, and then I don't take. If I take, I'm still winning. But I play queen h3. Because that threatens g2 mate. And this is still hanging, and my king is safe. The most important thing is that my king is safe. So Hikaru plays queen d2. And then here I realized I can win his queen. Because even though this stops mate, the king is smothered in the corner. g2. Queen g2, knight g3. Now actually, this was not the best thing to do. What I should have played here is I should have let this move be even more playable by playing the move knight to f4, which is a stunning move. And he can't take because it's mate, and he just can't cover g2. Like, pawn is coming here. If bishop e3, I win with takes, 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 and then I can mate on h3 or knight on e2. Both knight mates are possible. But I played this, knight g3, takes, takes, and Hikaru played knight b5, but actually in amazing fashion, if he had played knight f7, the engine evaluates this as just a -1 position. So somehow white is okay. Because white is not getting checkmated. But Hikaru played knight b5, obviously, I mean, he was like, what the hell is going on? I don't have a queen right now. And knight takes f7 was an opportunity for him to get back into the game. More or less. I mean, it's still very complicated because black is the one with the queen and calling the shots. And then here, again, I mean, up a queen, just come back. Maybe move the knight in. But I said, nope, we're going for it. Rook takes h2. Bishop takes h2 and rook h8. And here, I completely missed that he has rook f2. This is phantom defense. Like, the rook is completely hanging, but because of the pin, somehow everything is fine. And then I realized that I have knight to e5. The threat is to take the rook, because now I'm no longer pinned, and this is pinned like this. So he played rook g2, and this is probably, I mean, this whole idea is the one I'm proud of the most. Knight takes f3. And he can take my queen with one piece, he can't take it with the other. But in this position, despite 9 points up, my 2 remaining pieces deliver a checkmate. And actually, after knight takes f3, Hikaru resigned because there's just nothing actually white can do. If white plays like this, I can do the exact same thing. I can also take this way, and actually it's a choice of where to mate. But yeah, I mean, for me, like, playing the Caro-Kann, this was, you know, this was kind of a dream come true. And this whole h-pawn, you know, h-file attack, not to storm the pawn to h3, but rather use it as a barrier for entry, like to open the position like this with the rook opposite the king. So I was very happy, and then I couldn't really hold it together for the remainder of the match. I played a few games, but I think none at the quality of this one. I was very happy to have won like this. Now, Hikaru and I will probably play another one in the future. I'm sure Hikaru wants another clean one. 10 straight, or 20, or 30. We'll see. But wanted to share this with all of you. Let me know your thoughts. Maybe post a link to a game that you consider your best. A couple more videos will be over there. and I'll see you in the next video.